What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. Ammo Test Series number 4 for 40 Smith & Wesson. Our recent tests in order, number 1, 2, and 3, sorry for the torn up boxes, but they have been 155 grain XTP, the 100 grain Extreme Defender, followed by the 140 grain Extreme Penetrator. But today we're going to be moving on to the 4th Underwood offering. That's a 140 grain Maximum Expansion, advertised velocity at 1050. This round, in my opinion, is a little bit medium to lightweight for caliber. It is a solid copper hollow point, and if you notice, it has scores in it very deeply, and they're made to allow this round to open up upon impact. I'm not sure how well it translates on camera, but that's a very, very deep hollow point, so I'm expecting these pedals to go out very far. The firearm we're going to be using is a 4.25-inch Smith & Wesson model M&P40. That's a Gen 1. We're going to be sending 5 of these things into this B8 target with this pistol, hopefully getting into this X-ring. We're going to check accuracy. We're going to also use a chronograph to get an average of velocity and foot-pounds, hopefully. Then we're going to move the chronograph to right in front of the gel to hopefully capture the velocity of the bullet as it impacts the gel. As far as the gel, I only brought one block out today because I'm pretty sure we're not going to get past 20 inches of 10% clear ballistics gel. This block has been hit one time before, but I don't think that's going to matter at all for this test. My typical accuracy speech, I do all my accuracy testing offhand. We don't have a bench, a table, a rest, or anything that we shoot off of because we're checking for practical accuracy with defensive handgun ammunition. So we don't get those luxuries of a rest and all that if we're in the real world. Not that this is super real world testing. I mean, it's a target that doesn't move and it's me standing there shooting, but it's close enough simulation that we can get other than, I mean, I can't think of any other way to test for practical accuracy. There's always arguments to that, but this is just how I like to do it. With all that said and with testing explained, let's get to shooting. All right, we would say what I would call interesting accuracy out of the last few tests with this Underwood ammo and this particular firearm. Let's see how we do today with 5 rounds of this controlled expansion. A little tiny bit high and to the right. 1035. That feels like a baby in the hand. I'll tell you right now, that doesn't feel bad at all. That's just very smooth shooting. I've said this before and people kind of think it's a funny way to put it, but it feels like there's butter in the gun. It's just like whoomsh, really nice. Nothing to shock your hand at all whatsoever. So a lot of people like to talk about 40 caliber being snappy. Not this one. .1028, and that was right on the X. That was a hole in hole almost. It was a little bit higher, but still in there in the X zone, and that was 1032. And that was another one that was kind of high and to the right at 1046. Lock the slide back, we had 1020. Let's go take a look. That's what I was talking about, what's interesting with the accuracy of this firearm. If you look back on the previous test, this gun seems to spread out 2 separate groups, or it's just my shooting. We haven't figured it out yet. But I have another Smith & Wesson M&P 1.0 police trade-in from a totally different department, so it's had a different life. And we're going to put those 2 guns next to each other, and we're going to do an accuracy testing and see if we can find a mechanical difference or if it is just my shooting. But that'll be another video for another day. As far as this right here, this is completely acceptable accuracy for defensive distances with this type of a handgun. You can see right there where that black represents. I always say as long as you can keep it in the black, it's acceptable for moderate distance defensive use. This is very good. We put 3 here where we needed to, and we put 2 more here. There was a hole in hole involved right here. 1 here, and then 1 just a bit above it, and then that one. So I'll take that every day. Not bad at all. Good job, Underwood. And of course, it could still be the ammo, but I'm not so sure about that after 4 tests now where we've seen a little bit of deviation between the 2 different groups. All right, I'm going to try to get 1 round in that gel block down in the lower right corner. Let's see how this goes. Well, I got it in the middle, but oh well. We had 1021. Let's take a look. All right, 1021. All right, I did try to get it a little bit lower, but we ended up right here. We did see immediately upon impact there are some char marks, so it did heat things up right away. And coming into the side, we see it didn't initially grenade itself open like something like a civil defensor would right away. It did take a second for it to actually go ahead and do its thing, but then when it did its thing, it didn't do it permanently. We saw in the slow motion, camera guy and I reviewed it real quick. It's hard to do a really good look without the editing, but we did see it did have a temporary wound cavity that opened up pretty good, but it didn't last here in the permanent wound cavity. It's not a bad wound cavity. It definitely represents that star that's opened up that you can see. If I come down here from this angle, you're definitely gonna see it's opened up 4 petals wide open. However, as you've already noticed in the penetration here, we didn't get very far. We got to about 7.5 inches, 8 inches maybe with a bounce back. There's always a little bit of bounce back on gel for most projectiles, but I think the farthest we got was about 8, and then we settled back the projectile to 6 inches. The wound cavity itself goes to about 7.5, but the projectile is landing right at like 6, 6.25. The whole thing is probably between 6 and 6.5. Let's take a look from the top. All right, from the top, we see about the same thing. It is one big wound cavity, but it's because it's a star. It actually looks like that. If I try to move it around, you're gonna see that that is just one cutout. You can see how that thing pedaled back like it was supposed to. I mean, it's designed to just open those 4 pedals back and put the brakes on. They don't have that thing where the pedals are completely breaking off. And then I guess it's a controlled penetration also, because it's not gonna allow it to go forward very far. So not much different from the top, except for I think you can see a better representation of the bounce back that we had. I mean, the thing's not cool looking. I would not want that in me, but at the same time, that's got to be a center punch shot for a lot of things, or a skull or headshot type of thing on an animal. This is not something I would take for woods defense personally. I mean, this is barely human defense, and I'm not trying to knock Underwood, but something about this penetration is just bugging me. I'm assuming there's a reason this thing isn't loaded faster. It might be that they don't want it to, you know, just unleash its projectiles and let them go fly. It might be because there's something about the bullet design that doesn't really allow it to go down barrels faster with certain twist rates. I'm not sure. I'd actually like to see what this did out of a PCC carbine or whatever you call those things. Something with a 16-inch barrel or something like that might be really cool. And those of you that have been with the channel long enough know that when we see a projectile that we don't think exactly did what it could do, we will push it. So stay tuned for that. Upon digging this interesting little guy out, it is very nice looking. It's still pretty shiny, very uniform. I'm sure it held all of its weight. I can't see how it lost anything. And the diameter is very wide. I'll have all those numbers up in the corner for you, of course. But yep, pretty uniform performance there. You see it still has a pretty good base on it. It's able to carry through a little bit if I think it had a little bit more velocity through it. Even if these pedals did peel back a little bit more, we're really gonna have to investigate what happens. But I mean, if you see it shining in the sun the right way, it is pretty shiny. It looks pretty cool. It is like jewelry, I guess. But looking cool and being cool are two different things. Now, I will say this, in its current configuration, if you're a fan of the whole zombie apocalypse thing, if you're a Walking Dead fan, then this would be perfect for zombie headshots. I think this would probably be a good head exploder. You get green goo all over the place, but as far as the real world, like I said, we better be getting some kind of sternum shots on these zombies. That's because if you try to cross through other things, big bellies, whatever like that, I don't think you're gonna do a whole lot. Of course, you know, there's always the possibility to do T-box shots and all that, but we're really limiting what you're able to hit with this ammo. Personally, I think there's other options. Look through tests 1, 2, 3, and 4. You might find something that suits the whole zombie two-legged critter thing a little bit better. You know what I mean by zombies. It might involve meth. Let me know what you think in the comments about this ammo. Do you carry it? Would you carry it? Do you think it has a special application? I mean, it could be good for critter control. Like I said, it's very low recoil. It is accurate. I like any ammo that's accurate. If you found this video interesting or helpful, maybe give it a thumbs up and share it with somebody else who might like it. If you like to see this kind of testing and a whole bunch of other cool stuff, maybe consider subscribing. Those of you who are subscribed, check your notification bells because you know funny things happen. And finally, if you really like what we're doing and you want to help support the channel, we are on Patreon and we do have the join button turned on for YouTube. Thank you to everybody that's already there in both places. Thank you for watching this video, and until we see you at the next one, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. Maybe try out some .40 caliber.